Hi guys, welcome to another video on Tech with Shakul. Now that we have covered so many topics on system design, like we started from client server model, then moved on to how internet works, then we discussed distributed systems, microservices, cloud, API and whatnot. These form the core concepts of system design. Any interviewer will touch upon these core concepts. But when you are designing scalable products, there are certain other terminologies which are important. Now what do I mean by scaled products? Scaled products is simply put, the user base is not just 1 or 1000 users. They are being used by millions and millions of users. You are aware of these kinds of products like Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Flipkart. All these products are used by millions and millions of users. So when an interviewer asks you to design something like this, how do you ensure that the number of requests, now you might be getting thousands of requests in your database or on your nodes. How do you handle such volume in your system? So you have to design efficient systems. That is where the terminologies like caching, throttling, latency, throughput, all these key terminologies stand in place. So let's start with the first one, caching. Now what is a cache? In a layman definition, cache is a local copy of your database. Now you might wonder that, Shakul, if I already have a database, why do I need a local copy? So that's a good question. Let's look into the example of Twitter and see how they have incorporated caching, and we'll get to understand why is caching important and how it is used. So let's say you move on to your Twitter application, which looks like kind of this, and you click on this icon here. This is a very cute icon which they have. This is for home. So you click on this home icon, what happens? Now Twitter gets that you are following, let's say, some 100 people. It gets all the latest tweets made by these people and put it in the form of a timeline. So it presents all the tweets in the form of a timeline. This is what you get. Let's have a deep look in what is happening in the backend. Now to manage this request, what Twitter is doing is it gets the list of, firstly it fetches the list of all these 100 accounts that you are following. So fetches the list of 100 followers. Alright. Now for each of these 100 users, it queries the database. It has a central database where it is storing all the tweets. This is its tweets database. So where it is storing all the tweets, the Twitter fetches for all these 100 users what are the latest tweets made by these users. It gets a response. So these are various select statements and response is coming. Finally, it sorts this list into a chronological order and presents this as a timeline. So this is the timeline that you see, a sorted list. So now this looks easy, right? It is just one call to the database, couple of 100 calls to the database, not that big a deal. It's a simple select statement. So what is the fuss about it? Why do we care about this so much? Now all of this circus, this querying the database and fetching the records and all of this is happening in 300 milliseconds. That's the time which Twitter takes to make this request successful. In order to, after pressing this home timeline and displaying the home button and the timeline, it takes 300 milliseconds. Now I can't even blink an eye in 300 milliseconds, but Twitter is able to do this. I understand Twitter is a big company, they might have a lot of resources, they might have an expensive infrastructure, a DB which can do this kind of stuff. But it's not just doing it for you, it's doing for all the users. Twitter has 1.3 billion accounts. Now I understand that all these accounts are not active users, but fun fact, they have 100 million active users per day. 100 million active users. Now, according to a analysis, it was found out that there are 6,000 tweets made per second on Twitter. So imagine this database is getting 6K requests per second. These are write requests. It takes a lot of time to write onto the database. So it is getting 6K write requests, this database. Now, honestly, a single DB instance cannot handle this. So you can have a scalability. You can scale this to, let's say, 10 databases. So 10 database instance you have. Now this 10 database can handle these many write requests. So this will evidently come out to 600 requests per second on per database, which is okay. A database You just have to spend couple of millions of dollars, which is nothing, no big deal for Twitter. It can do that, and 600 requests per second is what my DB is currently getting. But this is right. Now, according to an analysis, it was found out that for every 100 users, 97 of them, these active users, these 100 active users, 97 of them didn't even post anything in the last 1 month. That means 97 users were there just to read stuff, like pressing on this home button timeline. They were not posting this. So if there were 6,000 tweets made this second, there were 6 lakh people, 600k people who were reading. So 600k read requests that were getting made on this database. Now, if there were 600k requests and I had, let's say, 10 database in scale, this brings down to 60k requests per second. Now, you might say that, Shakul, if they can scale up to 10 databases, they can scale it to 100 also. Honestly, not a good solution, because firstly, if you are scaling it to 100 database, your request will go circles around. Any read request will go circles around to find which database my data holds in. So it can't query into 100 databases. So that's one thing. And secondly, this number is constantly increasing because Twitter's user base is constantly increasing. This request will be 700, 800, 1000 tomorrow. So you can't at all times scale your DB to such large extents. So scaling is not an option. Now, if my database is handling 60k requests, what is the response time? The response time wouldn't be 300 milliseconds. It will be something like this. Now this is 300 seconds. मैं एक मैगी खा भी सकता हूँ, बना भी सकता हूँ in 300 seconds. तो इतना time, this is not the user experience that Twitter is providing us. It is providing 300 milliseconds. How on earth it is able to do that? This is where caching comes in. This is how caching is implemented in Twitter. So let us see. What happens is, I was pressing this home timeline and I was getting a sorted list of tweets. Now what if I could store this list at some storage? This is some local storage, and I'm storing this sorted list, not anything else, just this result inside this storage. Now the qualities of this storage is, it is fast access hardware. What do I mean by fast access hardware? Unlike storage, unlike the database that I had, this is very cheap compute. It is very easy to dump data inside this. This comes at very cheap prices. But fast access hardware means RAM, something like RAM. So this is very expensive compute. You can't have that for the DB size. You have just limited RAM available in your compute. So this is a fast access hardware. And what if I store this kind of sorted result inside this? So this is what my cache is. I'm storing this result inside this. So this result is present here. Now what happens? The next time the same user presses this, instead of going to the database to fetch all these queries, I will just refer to my cache results and present it in the form of timeline. This process can be done in 300 milliseconds because it's just a lookup inside my cache, and cache is my fast access hardware. It is very time efficient to query results inside my cache. Now the question arises, Shakul, if I'm caching every query result for all the users inside my cache, I will end up creating a duplicate database. This will be exactly the copy of a database, which is correct. If I cache every result, I will be creating another database, which I don't want. Firstly, because it takes time to query a database, and secondly, this is very expensive. This is an expensive compute. I can't store every result inside this. Now the question arises, what result to store? Do I store all the data? Do I cache all the data inside my cache? Or if I'm not doing that, how do I decide when the data gets out or which data to store? When does the data expire? These are the kind of questions that arise now. So let's answer them. Now the first one, do I store all the data inside my cache? No, you don't store all the data inside your cache. It depends on the application to which cache is responding. So let's say instead of the home timeline, there is also a button for the user timeline. So this is, let's say, for the user timeline. Now honestly, the hit rate on home timeline is more than the user timeline. A user will place more on the home button rather than searching his own user timeline. And secondly, user timeline is just a query to your records inside the database. It is not for 100 other users. This is just getting the tweets that you have tweeted or you have retweeted in some time. So this is a very, very simple query. I don't need to cache these kinds of results. These are very simple queries. I can respond in 300 milliseconds with this database also. But these kind of the results, which are complicated queries, which are a list of some sorting, some aggregation that is happening on, these are the kind of results which I need to store in my cache. So this answers the question, do I store all the data or not? Second question, if I'm not storing all the data that is getting stored, is it persistent or transient? Does it get stored for eternity, forever, like inside my database? Data inside my database is there till the time I don't delete it. So this is a persistent storage. Now, is my cache also a persistent storage or not? No, this is a transient storage. Meaning the data inside the cache will expire at a time. Now, who sets this expiry and how do I set this expiry? For this, there is a concept known as eviction policy. So there is a cache eviction policy which takes care when to evict the data. Now, the most frequently used cache eviction policy is LRU. LRU stands for least recently used. Now, as the name suggests, least recently used means just evict the data which was least recently used. So, let's say this is my cache. This is how my cache looks like. It has two columns. One is the data that is getting cached and another one is the timestamp. Suppose I'm storing the results for every user. So let's say user 1 query, I stored some result and the timestamp was, let's say, 11 AM. Now another user came, I cached the result, that's time was 11:30 AM, and another user came, user 3, and I stored it at 12 AM. Alright, and my limit is only 3. I can only store 3. Now what happens is, suppose this user 1 comes again. He clicks on this home timeline again. What happens? I will, instead of hitting it to the database, I will transfer the query to the cache. What happens? It will take this output and convert and change this to the recent timestamp, which is 12:30 PM. So it will change the timestamp anytime I'm making a query to my cache. Now for user 2, he just clicked on it once and he forgot about it. He didn't open Twitter in the next day. So what will happen? This will keep on sliding downwards. And let's say the user 3 came at around 2 PM. So what happens? This one got updated to 2 PM and for user 3. But this one will keep on sliding down. Now the least recently used one is this one. So this one will get evicted as in when I have to add another data to this cache. So the limit is only 3. So I will only cache the data till a limit. This will only be cached till a limit, and whatever the data is least recently used will be evicted out of the cache. This is how the eviction policy works. So this answers both of the question that do I store all the data, if the data is persistent or not, and how to evict the data. Now that we have got a grasp on how this process is, this is all about how read happens inside a cache. Anytime there is a result inside my cache, I will go and query that. This is known as cache hit. If the data is present inside my cache, it is known as cache hit. If it is not present, like if this user is coming for the first time, there will be no entry inside my cache. So what will happen? I will query the database. That case is known as cache miss. So there are two concepts, one is cache hit, one is cache miss. So anytime the cache miss happens, an entry will be made for the that particular result, so that the next time there is no miss. So your eviction policy should be in so much optimized that you avoid cache miss a lot. So the best system practice says that you should have an eviction policy such that you should cache those data that are more frequently queried by the user. If the user is clicking on home button more often than user timeline, then you should cache this result instead of caching the user timeline. So you have to put a lot of thought in what data to cache and what should be the eviction policy. Now this is all about reading process, how read happens inside the caching. Let's discuss what happens when we write. So when we are writing stuff, should we write inside the database or should we write inside the cache? So let's say this is a user again and he wants to write something. So this is my write request. Now this is my cache and this is my database. If I write inside my cache, if this is a tweet, this gets added inside my cache. So I've written something. Write happens here. What will happen is database, which was my persistent storage, has no clue about this write, this update which happened. And this is my persistent storage. It should have that, right? Because I will be relying on this storage, not this one. This will get deleted in some time. So I cannot do a write on my cache. Let's say I write on my database, because this was persistent. Now what happens? My write request is ending on my database, but my read request is going here on the cache. That's what I told about in the starting of the video. So my read request will come here. Now I'm reading from cache and writing it into the database. Then there will be a mismatch. The read would not show me the recent results. It will always show me the outdated result. So I cannot do this also. I cannot write it. So where do I write it? Now there comes three policies for this. The first one is write through. Write through says that if a write is coming, if a write request is coming, I will write it into the cache. I will write it here and I will send back an acknowledgement that your write is done. Let's say a user is writing a tweet, he will get an acknowledgement that your tweet has been entered. So an acknowledgement is sent. What happens after this write is over? Now this cache will send a request to the database that boss, this is an update. Do a write on yourself also. So this write will happen in your database. Now your cache and database are synced. So this is one case. The second one is write around. Now how write around works is, let's say this is your cache and this is your database. What happens is the write request will directly enter the database. So you will make a write over here and you will send back an acknowledgement. So your database will be acknowledging it. Then what happens is whenever a read request comes, because the entry won't be there in your cache, it will refer, it will be a cache miss. So it will refer the database, get the updated records, and your database will have the recent, your cache will have the recent write. So both of your database and your cache is synced. Key thing to note in this write around is if your cache doesn't have a miss, then you have to delete that record and again ask it to the database. Otherwise you will be getting the previous copy of the data, not the updated one. So this is one key fact inside write around. The third one is write back. So how write back works is you still write it into the database. You write it into the cache. So this is the write. And there is a sync service. This sync service, what it will do is, it will constantly sync your database with the cache so that your database doesn't miss this write. So any request that is getting written on your cache will be synced with this database, but this requires an external service which is sync. This is how writing is happening in your caching. So this is all about what we had to discuss in cache. There is another concept of CDN, which is Content Delivery Network, which is very important in streaming websites like Netflix, YouTube and all these things. They also cache in some different form. We'll discuss CDN and we'll be discussing global cache and local cache as well. So stay tuned. Thanks a lot.